Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something totally mind-bending, how a planet with absolutely zero witnesses somehow became one that actively remembers itself. We're going to start at the very beginning of the beginning, a time when there were no eyes, no memory, and literally no one around to say, hey, this is where it all started. Just rock, intense heat, and an unimaginable amount of time. So let's really think about this massive time frame for a second. Because the reality is, everything you've ever felt, every gorgeous sunrise you've ever stopped to look at, every story your grandmother told you, every single instinct that's ever kept you alive, all of it had to wait. It had to wait for something to exist that could actually notice it. The survival software running in your head right now was built piece by piece across a span of unobserved time that the word history doesn't even begin to cover. So what exactly happened before anyone was watching? 4.5 billion years ago, that is our starting line. At this point, the Earth was basically just a churning ocean of molten rock, slowly pulling itself together from a disk of dust and debris circling a really young sun. For hundreds of millions of years, the surface was violently hot, and there was absolutely nobody keeping score, just complete silence from any living observer. And things got off to a violently chaotic start. Out of extreme, planet-shattering violence, specifically a massive collision with an object roughly the size of Mars, the moon formed. And actually, that incredibly violent start is exactly what stabilizes our planet's tides and tilt today. Eventually, as the surface cooled down, water pooled to form our oceans. And then, for well over 1 billion years, the only living things were single-celled microbes. For a mind-bending amount of time, these silent little microbes just drifted in the water, slowly rewriting the chemistry of our atmosphere. They started pumping out oxygen, which eventually poisoned most of the life that existed before them, completely setting the stage for us. And they did the whole thing entirely without an audience. Then we get the Cambrian explosion. This was a sudden, massive burst of biological diversity, where life basically invented jaws, spines, and legs, all within a few tens of millions of years. But here's the crazy part. Despite this incredible burst of biological invention, there was still nobody around to be amazed by it. Life was literally inventing the framework of the modern animal kingdom, and there was absolutely no one around to be terrified of the predators, in awe of the shapes, or to tell a story about it afterward. Number 1, the long wait, leaving the ocean. It actually took almost 4 billion years of planetary existence for our story to finally drag itself up onto land. Roughly 375 million years ago, a fish-like creature pulled itself out of the shallow water on these stubby, leg-like fins, becoming the ancestor of every single land-dwelling animal with a backbone. Fast forward a bit through the amphibians and early reptiles, and we hit another absolutely staggering number, 165 million. For 165 million years, dinosaurs were the dominant land animals. To put that into perspective, that span of time dwarfs the entire existence of our own species by a factor of 1,000. They were completely unchecked, ruling over lush forests and swamps, while our very distant ancestors were stuck scurrying around in the shadows. Then, bam, 66 million years ago, an asteroid, roughly the size of a small city, slammed into the Earth at what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, and it completely ended the reign of the dinosaurs. Before that impact, mammals were these small, nervous, mostly nocturnal creatures just trying their best to stay out of the way of giant reptiles. They were literally living in the margins, burrowing and hiding. But after the impact and the massive climate collapse that followed, the largest competitors were wiped off the board. Suddenly, mammals had the room to grow, to diversify, and to eventually climb out of those burrows and up into the trees. That catastrophic extinction event, it's the precise reason we exist today. So mammals take over the canopy, and the traits they develop next are far from a coincidence. Between 55 and 60 million years ago, early primates appeared in the trees. Now, to survive way up there, they had to develop forward-facing eyes to judge the distances between branches and grasping hands to hold on tight. The depth perception and dexterous hands evolved by those tree-dwelling primates are the exact same tools you're using right now, in some form, to watch This Explainer. Number 2, the first eyes, the hominid milestones. That incredibly long wait for a witness to the universe was finally drastically narrowing down as we moved toward creatures that looked a little more like us. Around 6 to 7 million years ago, our ancestors started walking upright on 2 legs, which completely freed up their hands for things other than just moving around. Then, roughly 3.3 million years ago, something changed the story permanently. A mind actually planned ahead to deliberately shape stone tools. I mean, striking a rock with pure intention to create a sharp edge that didn't exist in nature. Fast forward to just over 1 million years ago, and we see the deliberate control of fire. And finally, around 300,000 years ago, our own species, Homo sapiens, arrives on the scene in Africa, bringing with us the actual anatomical hardware required for complex language. The biological and social impact of a simple campfire was absolutely profound. Think about it like this. Fire did something no tool had ever done before. It extended the day. Around a fire, for the very first time, there was time. It pushed back the dark, the cold, and the predators. And that spare time not spent just frantically trying to survive, allowed a species with a working larynx to do something totally unprecedented. We started talking about things that weren't right in front of us, not just shouting alarm calls, but using real language. We could finally describe yesterday, or plan for tomorrow, or talk about places far away. Number 3, learning to remember, storing human memory. Now, being able to tell a story and actually building the habit of telling one are two very different milestones. But as humans developed that habit, we reached another massive turning point in how we captured the history of Earth. Between 40 and 65,000 years ago, humans started leaving handprints and patterns on cave walls. We often call this the first art, but really, it was our first storage device. It was a memory that didn't die when the person who made it did. Then, for the overwhelming majority of human existence, history was oral tradition. It was myths told around fires, using the only tools we had available: memory, imagination, and each other. We built patterns in the stars because a mind that finds patterns is much harder to surprise. Finally, just 5,000 years ago, we invented writing. That is the exact moment history as a permanent record became possible, because writing ensures a story finally outlives the rememberer. Number 4, the 24-hour Earth clock, the climax of scale. To truly grasp the sheer, overwhelming scale of this evolution, let's completely shift our perspective for a minute and compress all 4.5 billion years of Earth's history into a single 24-hour day. If Earth's history is one day, life doesn't even appear until 4 a.m. Complex animals, they don't show up until nearly 9 p.m. The dinosaurs go extinct at about 11:41 p.m. And modern humans? All of recorded human history, every person, every war, every book you've ever heard of, occupies just the final 2 seconds before midnight. For almost the entire day, the Earth was just spinning in the dark, completely unobserved. We are the literal product of those first 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds. The tendencies you have today to seek meaning, to find patterns, to feel a spike of fear at a sudden rustle in the dark grass, and to connect deeply over stories shared around a glowing light, they aren't just quirky personality traits. They are inherited equipment. They are hard-won survival mechanisms forged over billions of years of unobserved time, built by a relentless pressure to notice danger and remember what works. Which brings us to the end of our journey today, but it leaves us pondering a pretty massive question. We finally stepped out of the unobserved dark and into the human mind. But once humans were actually here, what did those deeply embedded, inherited instincts do to us? And why do so many of them still run silently in the background of our modern lives today? Well, that is exactly what we're going to uncover in our next explainer. Thanks so much for learning with me, and I'll see you in the next one.